Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Cloud Pilot, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about how to learn cloud. So, for that, we have an amazing resource who's also known in the name of In 28 Minutes Official. So, today we have Ranga Karanam who is joining us to talk about how to build a career in cloud and how to learn cloud effectively. So, let's see the conversation. And this is the Cloud Pilot. You're listening to the Cloud Pilot podcast. Hey Ranga, how's it going? What a pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Udesh. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, it's been a great day and great end to the day as well, getting to talk to you.
Why don't we kickstart our conversation with your background? How has your journey been so far?
So my journey was typical IT services journey, right? So I actually got a chance to work with a number of IT services companies, mostly like some of the most biggest one, and the most popular ones are the ones which I worked with. And one of the biggest advantages I had in working with IT services was the chance that I got a chance to work with a number of different clients, and I got a chance to travel the world. I was in US for a little while. I was in Europe for a little while, and I got a chance to interact with a number of programmers all around the world. I was mostly into Java kind of background, so mostly into developing web applications, full stack applications, REST APIs. So that's kind of my background, deploying them to production, like taking care of architecture design. And yeah, after almost 15 years of working in the industry, I thought, okay, let's see the other side. Let's try and create some content. So that's been my journey, right? So I started with programming, got into architecture, went back to programming, and then got into content.
Yeah, it's really a great journey. Having that piece of knowledge is really important for creating content because you can only share what you know. You can't really share what you don't know. So most people know you as a content creator rather than an IT specialist. Mostly like a course instructor who somebody can look up to when they have issues with any technical things. So what was your inspiration to start the content journey, how to become a course instructor, help those students, what was that inspiration, and when did that journey start, how has it been?
What I discovered during my IT career was that I had a knack of making things really easy. Right? Whenever I set up a complex architecture, whenever we were starting up a new project, I saw that I was able to set up really good architecture, and also I was able to get the team to adhere to the architecture, write good code, understand what I was speaking. And during this, I also realized that I had a knack of making complex things really simple. So that's where I thought, okay, this is good. I'm able to teach people in my project. How about trying it in a bigger space? Right. So that's where my YouTube journey started. I thought, okay, let's go create some content on YouTube. I was interested in like JUnit, JUnits, like code quality, like clean code. So topics which not a lot of people are really interested in, but topics which I was really interested in. So I thought I'll create some content around it. So that's where my journey on YouTube started. And as I went forward, I realized, okay, if I would want to actually be a full-time content creator and just focus on the content, probably YouTube income is not sufficient enough. And that's where I was looking at other platforms. And luckily, I found Udemy.
So I have faced it firsthand, how challenging it is to be a course instructor or a content creator. So definitely your journey would have been so challenging because I can understand, in the past 1 to 2 years, I have been facing a lot of challenges. So, and you have been doing it for the like past 4 or 5 years, and definitely a ton of challenges. Uh, what are your views on facing those challenges? So what were those challenges, and how did you overcome those?
The main challenge when it comes to creating content is deciding what to create next, right? So that's the biggest challenge. I think when you're starting off, right? When I'm starting off, so let's say I'm starting creating content. The problems are little different, right? The initial problems of are, okay, how do I get really good video? How do I get really good audio? How do you ensure that I'm able to clearly explain the concepts? So those would be the initial challenges. So those were the initial challenges that I faced. I think you will work them out as soon as you create 100 videos, 150 videos. The first 5-6 months, you would work them out. And after that, the great thing is when I started off in 2015-16, I had huge amount of knowledge. It was easy because I had a lot of content in my brain. It was just about how do I organize it and how do I put it into a course. Once I have all the initial audio video kind of challenges at rest, it's now just like how do I organize it and put it out. But after a little while is when, like after I had around 20-25 courses, that's when the challenge becomes where, okay, what's the next topic to create content on? Where should I go next? What should be the topic I should be focusing on next? Should it be machine learning? Should it be Google Cloud? Should it be data engineering, right? So there are so many options that are available, and identifying something that you can master, and also identifying like people to partner with and try to ensure that the courses really offer a huge amount of value to the learners, right? Whenever I create a course, the most important part for me is a learner should have the feel of the how things would work in production. It's not just about learning the fundamentals. Fundamentals are good, really good, but I also want the learners by the end of the course to have a feel for how things would be in production, what would be the challenges they would face in production. And that's where I'm a great believer that every course should have some elements of the real world challenges mixed in. So that's where I partner with a lot of people and we bring a mix of all those things. And that's the challenge today. The challenge today is now how do I actually get the real world experience into the courses?
Absolutely. In fact, I think that's one of the most important things because you can get theoretical knowledge from anywhere, but getting that practical experience or that hands-on experience only makes you prepare or only prepares you for facing the challenges in the industry because their theory doesn't work. It's just hands-on. You just need to work.
And like, so during my journey, initially it was all hands-on courses. Even with the cloud, actually, I started with a lot of hands-on courses with respect to the cloud. So we had courses on Elastic Beanstalk, Fargate, we had courses on Kubernetes, which are really hands-on, right? So they are not focused on certifications or anything like that. But another challenge I faced at that particular point in time was nobody was interested in hands-on cloud courses at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
So this was like 3-4 years back. And then I had to pivot. So I had to pivot towards certification courses. I'm like, to be really frank, I'm not a big certifications guy at that particular point in time. So it was a lot of a mental shift that I had to bring in. Okay, certifications are good. Certifications are good. And yeah, over a period of time now, I understand the value of certifications, and also we have a lot of content around certifications. So yeah, it's that's another challenge, right? Seeing where your audience is going. How do you bring the balance between what you want, what you like teaching, and what the audience needs? Yeah, that's another challenge, which is like, I guess every content creator faces that.
How can somebody start a career in tech? I would start, I would tell them, start with identifying which role you want to work on, what's the things that you like to do, and then finding the roles based on that, and then, setting out the learning path. So again, the audience are different because you might face a fresh graduate who is coming right out of college, who might be currently pursuing their undergraduation, or there might be people who have been working like less than 5 years of experience, and there will be people with more than 5 years of experience. So uh, so out of that, how can they basically start a career in tech, whether they have a technical background or a non-technical background?
Somebody who's coming into technology, who has a little bit of background with technology, and they want to, let's say, become a programmer or something of that kind, right? So if they're interested in programming, then obviously the first few things that they would need to focus on are programming. So programming is the number one skill, which is very important. They should be good at least one of the programming languages. Number two, they should be good at building applications, right? So either a web application, a REST API, or a full stack application, right? So that's two. And today, I would say once you are good at these two, you can focus on learning the cloud. Try and deploy your application to the cloud. So whatever you're building, see how you can deploy it to the cloud at a very early stage. So you're building something today, you're building a web application today, you're building a REST API today. Think about how you can deploy it to a specific cloud, right? So once you do that, you get a complete overview of the entire picture of IT in general, right? So you'd start learning programming, you would actually build an application, you deploy it to the cloud, and that kind of gives you a big picture overview. However, I mean, it also depends on what your goals are, right? So if you are actually, let's say, you want to get into Amazon or Google, then probably you'd want to really focus on programming, data structures, algorithms, system design. So those are the areas that you'd want to focus on rather than the ancillary things, the things around. But if you are looking at probably you are not having so many technical skills and programming is not your real focus, then probably you can switch towards the application building side, web applications or REST API. So it depends on your skills and your goals as well. So even within the programming thing itself, you have so many things possible, right? Even if you are a non-programmer and you are looking at roles like, let's say, testing or business analyst, then you need to get the skills related to that first, right? So you need to first be a good tester or a good business analyst, and then probably cloud would be a good add-on, like one of the initial cloud certifications, just to get an overview of the cloud. Like the fundamentals of cloud certification should be a great add-on. So yeah, the thing is, it's a very difficult question to answer, because I feel uh, before I would answer a question like this, like typically, just like you, I'm asked this a lot. And typically, I would want to understand the context, the background, where they are coming from and where they are heading towards, before we'll be able to actually structure something for them. I feel all these kind of things are very personal. There is no generic one roadmap or one thing which would suit everybody. It should be case by case. We need to understand what the great background is, what their goals are, and based on it, decide the path.
So again, to start a career in cloud, what are those skills, like technical skills needed to land a job in cloud?
Let's start with the non-tech roles, because it's much more easier. Because for non-tech roles, I think it's very important for them to understand what is the value proposition of the cloud. What are the different services which are present? What is the use case for each of the service? I think that kind of knowledge, a broad knowledge of the cloud, is more than sufficient for most of the like broad, high-level things. The best thing I would recommend for non-tech folks to learn the cloud is to start with one of the cloud beginner certifications, right? So in Google Cloud, you have Google Cloud Digital Leader, you have AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner in AWS, and you also have Azure Fundamental certifications, right? So these certifications would be a great point to understand the value proposition of the cloud and also get a high-level overview of the different services which are present in each cloud platform. Yeah, if it's a tech role, then it's a very difficult thing, right? So there are a lot of tech areas also in the cloud, right? You can start with deploying web applications or REST API or microservices, or you might be into data engineering or machine learning, or you might be a security engineer, a network engineer. So again, even in tech, there are a wide range of possibilities. So for tech, I would think if you don't have any experience at all, so if you have zero experience, then probably beginner certifications might be a good place to start. But if you have played with the cloud for a significant amount of time, more than a year or so, then I would actually recommend you to go for a role specific certification. A role specific certification would be a great point to start. If you are a developer, going for a developer certification, or if you're a security engineer, going for a security engineer certification. Each of the cloud platforms have their own role specific certification. So that might be a great place to start. Now, just one thing I would want to add on there is I see a lot of people actually in a very young stage, like 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year, do architect certification. I like that in the sense that you are getting an overview of the architecture. What are the things that are important when I'm designing an application, architecting an application? That's good. But the experience that you need to be able to actually understand the certification in depth is a little bit more. So I would actually recommend, it's good to do it, but you would really benefit from that certification only if you have a lot of experience designing and architecting applications. So typically I'm on the wall, on the fence when it comes to architect certifications very early, but all the other role specific certifications, I would really recommend it. Just for the architect certification, I think if you have a little bit of architecture background, that would really help in getting real value of that certification.
Yeah, so because what I say is certifications brings you opportunities and your hands-on gets you the job and not the vice versa.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there is some misconception that a lot of people think if they have like a couple of those famous certifications then they'll get a job, which is not really true. and
No.
this misunderstanding has to be cleared out.
Yeah, I think also one more thing that we need to understand is the fact that cloud as an industry is growing. I mean, the growth of the cloud in the last few years is unprecedented, right? So cloud has been growing 20 to 30% for last 6, 7 years. And I would say it would grow 20, 30% minimum in the next 3, 4 years as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, any technology growing for 10 years at 20 to 30% pace is like unheard of. Very, 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 very rare incident. And that's why there is a severe shortage of skills. And that also plays into why certifications are valued a lot more, right? So typically a Java certification or a Python certification or an Oracle certification does not have as much value as a cloud certification today, especially because there is shortage of skills. But with time, I also see the value of the cloud certifications going down as more and more people get skills in the cloud. Like over the next few years, I see it going down. And that, I think even today, you cannot just get a job based on just a certification. You need to have the hands-on skills. But with time, I think the proportion of people who would be looking at just a certification as the entry point will be even going further down.
What do you think are those methods or something which somebody can use in order to learn consistently?
The most difficult thing today to achieve is consistency, right? We are distracted by so many things around us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many social media profiles, and yeah, it's very, very difficult to find focus. So I think the number one thing for you to actually focus on is to find the time where you are not distracted. So it's like at least find 3 to 4 hours a day where you are not distracted at all. You focus on what you want to achieve, right? It might be anything. It might be technology. It might be not related to technology. There would be something or the other you would want to work on or you want to improve your skills on. So find 3 or 4 hours in a day where you are not disturbed. I think that is the most important part. For me, if you are able to do that, if you are able to consistently put that effort in, then over a period of time, you would see that you would progress. So for me, that is the key. The key is to be able to find a block of time. It should be considerable amount of time. It cannot be very, very short time. It should be some considerable block. It might be every day. It might be every week, right? So every day or every week where you find that block of time. That's what helps me a lot. So for me, like my processes are very, very simple. So either I'm working or I'm not working. So it's like there is never in between. So and when I'm working, it's like complete focused work, right? So that helps you to focus, that helps you to learn a lot faster. And the other important thing is when it comes to learning technology, right? It's important to spend time when you are making a technology decision, right? You want to decide what you want to learn. Frequently I'm asked, which cloud should I learn? AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, right? So no problem. Take your time, talk to people, decide, right? But once you decide, you should not go back on that decision. Right? The problem with technology is nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. So in technology, in addition to focus, you need to have clarity of mind. You need to know, okay, this is technology I want to focus on. And once you decide to focus on something, you should be a master at it. You should not be an also ran. You should plan to be in the top 1 percentile, as I would usually call it. So yeah, I think focus, identifying what you want to master, and making sure that you are in the top 1 percentile. So those would be the tips I would recommend. And once you have those goals set, I think consistency would be a result of that.
What is your take on some effective learning approaches? What do you recommend, or what are your suggestions?
Learning specific to an individual, and it varies from one person to another person, right? So I might be like, my way of learning is completely probably something which others might be really, really like others might find it really, really difficult to adapt. So, what if like so for me it's very, very simple, right? So if I'm actually trying to learn something new, I would want to learn from the guy who has created it, right? If I would want to actually learn Kubernetes, for example, I want to hear from the guy who has created Kubernetes. I want to hear why he has created Kubernetes. What is the reason a specific tool exists? I start with that, and then probably I would actually read a lot of books on it. So my style is very, very old style. So I probably go in, I order like 4 or 5 orally books. So that's where I would start. So my journey would start typically with orally, like 4 or 5 books on that topic end to end. And I also find that really, really effective, because when I'm reading a book, I'm not disturbed. It's a physical copy I order. So I'm not disturbed at all. So it's like I completely focus on the book, and I can, like, one individual skill I have is I can read book for 8 hours and not get bored. That's the reason why I'm able to focus and learn so fast, because I learn from really, really good books, identifying the right book, making sure that you are able to go through that. And then probably I would pick up a few online courses as well. So that's kind of my approach towards learning. Uh, but again, this is something which everybody needs to customize for themselves, right? So you need to find out what works for you. So if somebody is trying to learn something new, I would recommend you to try YouTube, try Udemy, try Coursera. So go and search in all the platforms, spend 15, 20 minutes on the platform, try and do a small course, try and identify something, see which one appeals to you, right? So there are a wide variety of courses, but each course is aimed at a different audience. You need to find out which one is aimed at you, which one is aimed at the goals that you want to achieve. So another very, very important tip to this is not to go hands-on too soon. Like, I see a lot of people actually try hands-on with everything that they do, right? It's hands-on is very, very important. You should be hands-on. Like, if you're trying a new cloud platform, or if you're playing with the cloud for the first time, yes, go ahead and do hands-on. But hands-on is not necessary on everything, right? As you grow up, the most important thing is to have a high-level picture of the thing, right? It does not mean you have to have hands-on knowledge on everything. So one of the filters I typically use to decide if I have to go hands-on on something or not is, okay, what is the chance that I would be actually doing a project on that specific technology in 1 year time?
Yeah.
If the chance is less than 5%, then I would say, okay, don't go hands-on too soon. Get a picture. I mean, understand it, why it is there, what is the big picture around it. Get a high-level overview. Watch, maybe do a course, but don't go hands-on too soon, right? Because human brain is like, you learn something today and you don't use it for 6 months, you forget it,
Yeah.
right? So making efficient use of your time is very, very important. So you need to focus on things you would be doing in the next 12 months. Go hands-on on them, but for rest of the things, try and get a high level overview, try and understand things at a high level, and don't go too deep into them. So that's one of the approaches where you can actually, which you can use to make your learning really, really effective, by focusing on things which are important for you. So don't just go hands-on too deep into it when you don't think you'll be using a tool in the near future. At the start of your career, when you're learning programming, hands-on is really, really important, right? So if you want, you can become a programmer only by doing a lot of hands-on. But as you grow up in the career, you should be very, very picky about what you want to get hands-on and what you don't want to get hands-on.
Another question which I get from a lot of people is, they want to switch careers. What do you suggest, or what do you advise to those people who want to switch careers?
I would want to switch to something which gives value to my previous experience, right? You don't want to just jump into something where there is all your previous experience is wiped off and you're starting from zero,
Yeah.
right? So that's not a good career switch as far as I'm concerned, right? If you are actually, for example, somebody who's building REST API, or you have a tech background, or you have testing background, whichever background you have, you need to see how it connects to what we do in the cloud. And that's where I think if you have no cloud knowledge, probably the first thing that you can try and do would be to do a beginner level cloud certification, right? So the reason why I'm a big fan of beginner level cloud certifications is because they not only give you good knowledge. I mean, like a lot of these certifications, I mean, obviously each of the cloud platforms want to sell their cloud to you. So there is an element of sales in there. But if you can ignore that sales element, there is also a lot of information for you. Like, it helps you to understand the value proposition of the cloud, the different services which are there in the cloud. And therefore, you can see for your job, whatever you're doing right now, which of these areas would really, really help, right? So for example, if I'm, let's say, a database administrator, or if I'm a network engineer or a security engineer, I can identify, okay, these are the services I would want to focus on, right? So you don't, like, nobody can master everything in the cloud. It's very, very important to be specific about choosing things which are related to what you are doing. If you're a network engineer, probably you would want to be an expert at how to configure networking, sub-networking in the cloud, right? So how do you become a network administrator in the cloud? If you're a database administrator, how do you become a database administrator in the cloud? So find something which is related to what you're doing and do it in the cloud. That would be the best way where you can actually pick up all the knowledge that you have and you can build on it, and cloud would be the next level kind of. So you'd not lose your previous experience. Same is the case with, like, if you're a developer, you know, you are good at building REST API. See how you can build REST API using Lambdas. See how you can build cloud functions or Azure functions in a serverless way. See how you can build a REST API and deploy it on Kubernetes, right? So that's how so your REST API skills are useful, and also you are learning the cloud. So I'm always a big fan of actually using a cloud as a step up. So whatever you're doing now, how do you do it in the cloud? If you can get that perspective, I think that would be a great value add for anybody who's doing something in the IT industry, right? If you're non-IT, then probably a beginner cloud certification might be a good start. Try and do it and see if you have any ideas of where you can take it further.
Now, bringing up a lot of experience, like 15 years of experience on the industry, 5 years from course creation, now having all these knowledge, if you would have met your younger self now, what would you have advised in order to grow better?
I think great question. I mean, my younger self, probably one would be to focus a little bit more on the business side of things, right? So what happens is when you are a programmer, when you are an architect, I mean, mostly as a programmer, mostly as a techie, you tend to focus just on the technology piece of it and not on what your organization is trying to achieve. So I would want that element to come in, right? So that's one. However, I would say in a lot of areas, my younger self was a lot better. So in risk taking and a lot of abilities of that kind, I would say my younger self was much, much better at taking risks and identifying the right approaches. As you age, things change.
Yeah, that's a really a wonderful piece of advice. Lot of things, when we are young, we are kind of in an adrenaline rush at times when we want to take decisions, and sometimes that really helps. And I believe for me also, it was kind of an adrenaline rush which made me took the decision to move into cloud, and it has really paid me off very well. So yeah, wonderful thing. Good to hear that. And I think, yes, that's pretty much all we had. So thank you so much for being in this podcast, spending your time, valuable time for our audience. How was your experience?
I really loved it today. I mean, it's always great to see somebody who's in the same space as you, right? So even though we think we meet a lot of content creators every day, but it's not very often that I talk to a lot of content creators. So it's really, really good to talk to somebody who's in the same space, try and understand what your thought process is as well. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I'm sure the audience would have been, so much eager to watch, to listen from you on how to start the career in tech and in cloud. So thank you so much for your words and your time. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope this has helped you very well. We'll catch up soon on another one. Till then, it's me, the Cloud Pilot, signing off.